The alarms were already screaming when I opened my eyes. I am Daniel Whitfield, pilot of the light cruiser Meridian, and the last thing I remember before the alarms is the calm voice of Fleet Command telling us to hold position near Titan. That calm did not last. Within minutes, the sky above the moon turned white, then orange, then full of shapes that did not belong to us. They came out of nowhere, hundreds of ships dropping out of hidden space at once, forming a wall so large it blotted out Saturn's rings. My hands were shaking on the controls before I even understood what I was looking at. Fleet Command had told us to expect a patrol. Instead, we were facing an armada. My comm crackled. Captain Naomi Ellison's voice cut through the static, steady despite everything. All ships, hold the line. We are not running. I wanted to ask her how we were supposed to hold anything against a fleet 50 times our size, but there was no time. The enemy ships opened fire, and the black sky lit up with lines of light that ended human lives one after another. I banked the Meridian hard to the left as a beam sliced past where we had just been. My co-pilot, a quiet young man named Oliver Brandt, gripped the edge of his seat and stared at the display, watching our formation collapse in real time. Ships that had been beside us moments ago winked out of existence, one by one, like candles pinched between fingers. "They are not even slowing down," Oliver said. "They are not even trying." He was right. The enemy fleet moved with the confidence of something that had already decided the outcome. They were not fighting us. They were finishing a formality. I found out later, from an old data log we recovered, that their commanders called us young and disorganized, a species that had barely left its own solar system and dared to stand in front of them anyway. They underestimated exactly how much that would matter. I flew through the wreckage of our own ships, dodging debris that used to be crude vessels with names and histories, weaving toward a gap in the enemy formation that a young systems officer named Priya Sinclair had spotted from the flagship. She fed us a narrow corridor, a tiny weakness in their shield coverage near one of their main cruisers, and for a moment, I believed we had a chance. Then the moon itself became a battlefield. Titan's surface lit up beneath us as ground batteries opened fire, joining the fight from below. It was not enough. Our defenses had been built to hold off raiders and pirates, not an empire. Explosions bloomed across the icy surface, throwing frozen debris into orbit, turning space around us into a storm of rock and metal. Captain Ellison's voice came through again, tighter this time. "Formation Bravo, converge on their command ship. We take out the head, the body follows." It was a desperate plan, the kind of plan you only try when every other option is already gone. 12 ships, including mine, broke off and pushed straight toward the enemy's largest vessel, a ship so massive it looked like a small moon itself. Every gun on that monster turned toward us. I do not remember being afraid in that moment. I remember being angry. We lost 4 ships in the first 10 seconds, then 6. Oliver called out damage reports in a voice that cracked but never stopped. Our shields dropped to 1/3 of their strength, then 1/10. Sparks fell from the ceiling of the cockpit as a support strut buckled somewhere behind us. A young flight officer named Marcus Duffy, flying just off my wing, sent one final transmission before his ship vanished in a flash of light. Tell my sister I kept my word. I did not have time to answer him. I did not have time to grieve him either, not then. There was only the next second, and the next, and the growing certainty that we were not going to win this battle. What we could still choose was how much it would cost the ones who came to take it from us. Priya's voice returned, sharper now, full of urgency. "Their shield generator has a weak point on the underside, near their engine cluster. If something hits it hard enough, it could open a gap in their defenses." Captain Ellison did not hesitate. "Whitfield, you are closest. Take it." I looked at Oliver. He looked back at me, and without a word, we both understood what she was really asking. My ship was already crippled, half its systems failing, weapons barely functioning. There was only one way to guarantee a hit on something that heavily shielded. I am not going to pretend it was easy. I thought about my mother waiting for messages that might never come. I thought about every ordinary morning I used to take for granted, coffee on a quiet station, sunlight through a viewport, nothing at all like this. Then I thought about Marcus, and about everyone else who had already given everything in the last few minutes. And I understood, there was no version of this story where I got to keep something for myself and still call it worth it. "Punch it," I told Oliver. He nodded once, and we drove the Meridian straight at the enemy's weak point, engines burning far past anything the ship was built for. Alarms blared around us, warning of hull stress, warning of imminent failure, warning of everything we already knew. At the last possible second, Oliver rerouted every scrap of remaining power into our forward systems, and I held the controls steady as the distance closed to nothing. The impact threw me against my restraints hard enough to black out the edges of my vision. When it cleared, alarms had gone silent, replaced by an eerie quiet. Through the shattered viewport I saw it, a crack of light spreading across the belly of that massive ship, their shields flickering, failing, dropping. "Their defenses are down," Priya shouted over the comm, disbelief mixing with hope in her voice. "Command ship shields are down." For the first time since the battle began, our remaining ships had an opening. It was not enough to win. We did not have the numbers left to press the advantage, and Captain Ellison knew it. The order came seconds later, calm despite the impossible weight behind it. "All ships, fall back. We have done what we came to do." We had not saved Titan. The moon's surface was scarred beyond recognition, our fleet reduced to a fraction of what it had been that morning, and the enemy still held the field when the smoke cleared. By every measure that matters in war, we lost. It would go down in every record as humanity's greatest defeat, a battle where we were outnumbered, outgunned, and ultimately pushed back from a moon we could not hold. But something else happened that day too, something the enemy did not expect and could not explain in their reports. Their flagship, the pride of their war fleet, limped away from Titan with its systems in ruin, forced into months of repair before it could fight again. Dozens of their ships never made it home. Word spread through their command structure. We found out much later through intercepted transmissions that the humans they had dismissed as young and disorganized had thrown themselves at a superior enemy without hesitation, and had bled that enemy in a way no one else in known space had managed before. I sat in the wreckage of my ship afterward, waiting for rescue, with Oliver beside me holding a fractured arm and a grim, tired smile. Around us drifted the remains of both fleets, human and alien, mixed together in the same dark silence, a strange kind of equality that neither side had asked for. "We lost," Oliver said quietly. "We did," I agreed. "But they will remember this." He was right about that too. In the months that followed, as the war continued and other battles were fought, I learned that our enemies stopped treating human resistance as an afterthought. Reports described new caution in their tactics, new respect in their communications, even something like fear in the way their commanders spoke about future encounters with us. A species that had been ready to write us off as an easy conquest instead found itself recalculating everything it thought it knew. I think about Titan often, about Marcus and the others who never made it back, about Captain Ellison's steady voice holding a shattered fleet together through the worst hour any of us had ever lived. We call it a defeat because that is the honest word for it. We lost the moon. We lost people we can never replace. Nothing about that day was a victory in the way victories are usually described. And yet, whenever I meet someone new to the fleet, someone who has heard the name Titan's grave, and asks what really happened there, I tell them the truth as I lived it. We were smaller, weaker, and outnumbered beyond reason. We fought anyway. We paid a price no one should have to pay, and in return we showed something to an enemy that had never been shown it before. They learned that day that humanity does not measure a battle only by what is lost. Sometimes the cost we are willing to pay becomes its own kind of warning, one an enemy carries with them long after the smoke has cleared. That is what happened above Titan. That is why, even now, they think twice before they come for us again.